Bridging from the unknowable into the day, into the daily life, into our daily experience, into our everyday relationships is the journey of a Jin Shin Jyutsu practitioner, I believe. It's my journey. And I wanted to share more about how that looks and how that might manifest. So, we've talked about lots of times that capacity for exhalation. And I share that with you from that knowing that that is the beginning place, that place of surrendered movement forward, taking pause, recognizing the beauty in the space between. So, in all the imperfection, we recognize the perfection and we exhale through and down. And we recognize that there's endless opportunity for breath, endless opportunity to forgive ourselves, to hold and or surrender. Recognizing that there's this innate wisdom that each one of us carries, and that in itself is worth celebrating. And that occasionally, even if you're a smoker, let's say, and you take the time to do that deep diaphragm breath, and you take that time out, that 7 minutes, to take a pause and reflect before taking action. That's the place of wisdom, stepping in, self-soothing. And it's our journey to figure out what's the best and most effective way to achieving what it is we set out to achieve. Is it harmony? And so in my case, there are times when I might ask myself, do I need to do the diaphragm breath? Do I need to take time out? Do I need the chemical? Do I need the chemical compounds put into that sacred plant? And that's in the case of smoking that I'm talking about. So the answer in my case is no. What I do need is the diaphragm breath. What I do need is taking pause. What I do need is asking myself the question, is this moment okay with me? And then I make the choice. So this is an example of a place where we may arrive with a mental judgment and then move into the place of compassion, forgiveness, understanding, softening, allowing, opening. And there's so many times in our lives where we do that. We have a moment where we're feeling frustrated or impatient, angry, sad, whatever those expressions of emotion are. And those are healthy. Those are messages, right? So getting into that where we're thinking, yeah, I'm insanely triggered right now. And so why is that? Well, maybe I don't know yet. However, I'm going to recognize that I'm triggered enough to ask myself the question, in which case I'm going to take pause. I'm going to exhale. I'm going to feel into what is it I need right now in this moment. And oftentimes it's a boundary. So I recognize that, in essence, taking that knowable, what I know right now, and merging it, bridging it with the unknowable, what's available to me. I'm allowing for that potential. The possibility that, in fact, by checking in, by taking space, by grounding through, by maybe holding a finger associated with an emotion that I'm familiar with, we talked about this being the center. We talked about, 6 steps, connection to spirit. We talked about the thumb, releasing energy through that stomach spleen, releasing that movement through that pathway, the emotion of worry or fear, bladder, kidney, that channel, that energy function, organ function channel, releasing fear. Potentially we're looking at the middle finger, gallbladder, liver, organ function flow, releasing the emotion of anger, exhaling. Ring finger, right? Sadness and grief. We've talked about that lots. Lung and large intestine organ function flow. Holding it, exhaling, dropping through and down. Right? We have these tools at our disposal. Naming our emotion, exhaling, softening the jaw, opening the throat, expanding and contracting through the chest in our own time. Softening the belly, opening the pelvic girdle, allowing the flow through the inside of the knee and down, or the outside of the knee and down. What is it we need beyond the feet? Connecting with, grounding with all that exists beyond the denser aspects of our being. And that allows us to dissolve the feeling of trying to, or pretense, smiling when we actually want to scream or cry, right? Little finger. We recognize the power of naming. We recognize the power of that spark of life that we can put through those energy functions, right? Those organ flows. So powerful, connecting us to all the depths of our being. So in the simple naming of emotion, checking in, am I in good shape? Is there something that's alive in me right now that I need to soften through and name? And I recognize that that is part of the bridge, right? Staying alive with it, allowing ourselves that moment, that pause. And so I encourage us, if we do that through, taking a coffee break, or taking a smoke break, or whatever it is we do, if that's where we begin, release the judgment and recognize the wisdom in that, and recognize that there's an opportunity to then allow for that same gift of time and pause and reflection, without the stimulant, or without the chemical, or without the extra, the sugar. And no judgment, because those things in fact are fast roads forward. So then we have to decide, are we on a fast train, or are we interested? Do we have the capacity in this moment, to slow it down, to take pause, to show up for ourselves? And in fact, it's the showing up for ourselves that then allows us to show up in a greater capacity for one another, for our job, for the earth, for the work that we're ready to offer up. The surrendered place of beginningness. And that place of radical acceptance of what is, what our capacity is. And then we recognize this is okay with us. We check in with the emotion. And then we ask what resources are available to shift that. Can we ask for help? Can we take a break? What boundaries are we capable of enacting for our own selves, for our own preservation? Can we call in a witness? Who is it that's there in our lives to not only listen to the story of our experience, but to just hold space for the processing of emotion without needing to solve our problems? So, presence as we build the bridge between the ethereal, the unknowable, and our day-to-day lives. And really that is the work. That is the work. And so as we begin to get that deeper sense of what's alive in us now, each one of us deepens that sense of intimacy with ourselves and essentially allows for that out-breath. Recognizing that things are greater than our own physical will or our musculature. Sometimes we're just tired and we feel the need to carry on. And so how do we do that? Sometimes just taking a few minutes to pause, to be in nature, to hold a finger, to exhale, to drink that water. Instead of taking the coffee, pick the herbal tea, just that one time. No judgment, just experimenting with the flow. Laying down for 6 minutes. Allowing the breath to be the focus. Sometimes that's enough to get us through the day. We're a little softer on ourselves. Better able to forgive. And then we move forward. Forgive ourselves. Move forward in the world. Thanks for sharing this time. And I hope that, well, I trust, really, that we're all going to find our way there today, in a little way. Softening, and checking in. What's alive and how can I nourish harmony within? Essentially, that's Jin Shin Jyutsu. And from there, everything else flows. Thanks, guys. It's a total honor to be here on this journey with you. It's just a one day at a time, one moment at a time, one breath at a time kind of thing. A chance to begin again.